My wife hands me adoption papers at our son's third birthday party in front of 40 guests and tells me I have 1 week to sign them. The envelope is that institutional tan, the color of bureaucracy and betrayal. It feels heavier than paper should. Around us, 3-year-olds are screaming over musical chairs. Someone's aunt is cutting the cake that says, "Happy Family" in blue icing. My mother-in-law is watching me with her arms crossed, and I can tell from her expression that she already knows what's inside. "Open it," my wife says. Her name is Jennifer, but right now, standing in our backyard with that smile that doesn't reach her eyes, she feels like a stranger. Everyone's waiting. I don't want to open it here. I don't want to open it at all. But she's positioned this perfectly. 40 witnesses, mostly her family, and a 3-year-old who's currently shoving birthday cake into his face with both hands. His name is Oliver. I've changed his diapers. I've walked him through his nightmares. I've taught him to say daddy. I open the envelope. Inside isn't just paperwork. It's a DNA test. One I didn't order. What is this? My voice comes out quieter than I intend. Proof, Jennifer says, and now her voice has that edge I've been hearing more and more lately. Proof that you need to step up and be a father. Legal proof. I look down at the paper. There's a lab logo. There's Oliver's name. There's my name. And there's a number that makes my vision blur. Probability of paternity. 0.00%. The paper shakes in my hands. Around us the party continues. Someone turns up the music. A child laughs. And my entire life becomes a lie. Let me rewind. Let me tell you how we got here. 6 months ago, Jennifer took a girls' trip to Greece. That's what she called it, a girls' trip. Her college roommate was getting divorced and needed one last adventure before 35. Jennifer had been planning it for months. She showed me the resort photos online, the infinity pools, the white buildings against that impossible blue sky. 2 weeks, she said. I know it's a long time, but I need this. I need to feel like myself again. I didn't argue. We'd been married 7 years. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 of those years. Every negative test had been another small death, another conversation about what we were doing wrong, another reason to feel like we were failing at something that should be natural. Go, I told her. Have fun. Come back glowing. She did come back glowing. I thought it was the Mediterranean sun. I was wrong. Here's what I didn't know. I was at a work conference in Chicago during the first week of her trip. I have the plane ticket to prove it. I have the hotel receipt, the conference badge with my name printed on it, the photo with my boss in front of the keynote stage. I wasn't in Greece. I couldn't have been in Greece. But Jennifer came back after 2 weeks with that glow, and 3 weeks later, she came into our bedroom holding a positive pregnancy test, crying happy tears. We did it, she whispered. We're finally pregnant. I remember holding her. I remember feeling like maybe we weren't broken after all. I remember calling my mother and hearing her voice crack with joy. My mother pulled me aside later that day. We were at her house, celebrating with champagne, sparkling cider for Jennifer. My mother walked me into the kitchen and closed the door. Son, she said carefully, the math doesn't work. You were in Chicago. We had 3 days together before she left, I said. But even as I said it, I was counting backward, counting days, counting weeks. You need to be sure, my mother said. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were hard. She'd been married to my father for 40 years before he died. She knew what loyalty looked like, and she knew what lies looked like too. I didn't listen. I didn't want to listen. The pregnancy progressed. We had ultrasound appointments. We picked out nursery colors. I painted the room myself, a soft gray blue that took 3 coats to get right. I bought a stuffed giraffe from the baby store because the tag said something about how giraffes can see far. And I wanted to teach my son to have vision. Oliver was born in January. He had Jennifer's eyes and someone else's chin, but babies all look like little old men at first, right? That's what everyone said. That's what I told myself. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, type, "I understand" in the comments. You're not alone. The first time I really let myself doubt was when Oliver was 2 months old. Jennifer had left her phone on the counter and it buzzed with a message. The preview showed on the screen, "Miss you already, Mommy. When can we meet again?" The contact name was just a letter. M. I didn't confront her. I didn't know what to confront her with. Maybe M was a woman. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe I was paranoid from sleep deprivation and the way Jennifer had started looking at me like I was a problem she needed to solve instead of a partner she'd chosen. But I started watching. I started noticing things, like how she still wore that turquoise wristband from the Greek resort, all-inclusive printed on cheap plastic, as she wore it for weeks after she got back, even in the shower. "It reminds me of paradise," she said when I asked about it. Paradise. That's what she called it. I started counting. I pulled out the calendar we keep on the fridge, the one where we mark everything, work trips, doctor appointments, date nights we never actually have. I marked her Greece trip in red. I marked when I was in Chicago. I marked when she told me she was pregnant. The dates didn't line up, but I still didn't do anything. Because what was I going to do? Accuse my wife of cheating? Demand a paternity test for the baby I'd already bonded with? The baby who grabbed my finger and smiled, actually smiled, when I sang to him? So I waited. I pushed it down. I changed diapers and went to work and pretended everything was fine. Until 3 months ago, when I couldn't pretend anymore. I ordered a DNA test online. The kit came in discreet packaging, 2 cotton swabs that tasted like the end of everything. One for me, one for Oliver. I did it while Jennifer was at her yoga class. I swabbed the inside of my cheek, tasting salt and fear. Then I went into Oliver's room, where he was napping, and I gently swabbed the inside of his mouth. He didn't even wake up. The kit instructions said results would take 7 to 10 business days. I mailed it on a Monday. I checked my email obsessively for 2 weeks. The results came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, sitting in a meeting about quarterly projections, when my phone buzzed. The email subject line said, "Your DNA test results are ready." I excused myself, walked to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and opened the attachment. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't feel like pain at first. It feels like nothing, like the absence of feeling, like falling into space where there's no up or down, no gravity, no ground to catch you. I sat on that toilet for 20 minutes, staring at the numbers. The report was clinical, professional. It listed genetic markers. It showed comparisons. It used words like excluded and biological impossibility. And at the bottom, in smaller print, the alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the child. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. I printed the report when I got home. Jennifer was making dinner, pasta, Oliver's favorite. He was in his high chair, smashing peas with his fist and laughing. The kitchen smelled like garlic and basil and betrayal. "We need to talk," I said. Jennifer turned around. She was still holding the wooden spoon. There was red sauce on her shirt. She looked at my face, and I watched her expression change. She knew exactly what I was holding. "Where did you get that?" Her voice was flat. "I ordered it myself." I put the paper on the table. "I had to know." "You had to know?" She slammed the spoon down. "You went behind my back. You doubted me after everything we've been through." "After everything we've been through? You cheated on me in Greece and came back pregnant with another man's baby." The words hung in the air between us. Oliver stopped laughing. He looked at me with those big eyes, Jennifer's eyes, and I realized he could feel the tension even if he couldn't understand the words. Jennifer looked at me, then she looked at Oliver, then she looked away. "His name was Marco," she said finally. "It was one night, just one night. I was drunk and lonely, and you were always working, and we couldn't get pregnant, and I needed to feel wanted. One night." I heard my voice from very far away. You destroyed our marriage for one night. I didn't destroy anything. She stepped closer. I gave us a baby. The baby we wanted. The baby we tried for years to have. Does it really matter where he came from if we love him? Yes. The word came out like a gunshot. Yes, it matters. It matters that you lied. It matters that you let me believe he was mine. It matters that every moment of the last 2 years has been built on a lie. He is yours. Now she was crying. Real tears or fake ones, I couldn't tell anymore. You're the one who rocks him to sleep. You're the one who takes him to the park. You're the one he calls daddy. Biology doesn't make you a father. Love does. So prove you love me. Sign the papers. And that's when I understood. The adoption papers weren't an olive branch. They were a trap. She'd known for months that I might find out. So she'd gotten ahead of it. She'd prepared legal documentation to lock me in permanently, to make it impossible for me to walk away without looking like a monster who abandoned a child. You've been planning this, I said slowly. You knew I'd find out eventually, so you made sure you had insurance. She didn't deny it. I looked at Oliver. He was watching us with his big eyes, his little fist still full of smashed peas. I loved this child. God help me, I still loved him. But love can't heal a betrayal this deep. I need time, I said. You have 1 week, Jennifer said. Her voice had gone cold now, businesslike. 1 week to decide if you're a man who keeps his promises or a coward who runs away when things get hard. She picked up Oliver and walked out of the kitchen. I stood there alone, holding a DNA test that said 0.000%, and wondered how I'd become the villain in a story where I was the one who'd been lied to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Jennifer. We were still sharing a bed then, mostly because I didn't know what else to do, and stared at the ceiling. She was breathing evenly, maybe asleep, maybe pretending. I'd stopped being able to tell the difference between her truths and her performances. At 2 a.m., I got up and went to Oliver's room. He was asleep on his back, arms thrown up over his head the way babies sleep, like they're surrendering to something. The giraffe I'd bought him was tucked into the corner of his crib. The nightlight cast shadows that looked like waves across the gray-blue walls I'd painted. I stood there watching him breathe, and I thought about all the moments I'd already given him, the midnight feedings, the diaper blowouts, the time he was sick with a fever, and I held him all night while he whimpered against my chest. Those moments were real. My love for him was real. But the foundation underneath it all was a lie. I heard my phone buzz in the bedroom. At 2 a.m., nothing good comes through. I walked back and checked it. It was my mother. Just 3 words. Are you okay? I wasn't okay, but I didn't know how to type that, so I just sent back, can't sleep. Her response came immediately. Come for breakfast tomorrow. Alone. My mother lives 20 minutes away, in the house where I grew up. The kitchen still smells like coffee and something baking, even at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. She was waiting for me with scrambled eggs and the kind of serious expression that meant she'd been up worrying too. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. I told her about the DNA test, about Jennifer's confession, about the adoption papers and the ultimatum, and the feeling that I was drowning in a life that had stopped being mine. My mother listened without interrupting. When I finished, she got up and went to her bedroom. She came back with a letter, handwritten on cream stationery, the kind she keeps for important things. I wrote this last night, she said. After you texted. I've been afraid this was coming, ever since she got back from that trip. The letter was 2 pages, written in her looping cursive, the same handwriting that had signed my permission slips, the same hand that had written, "We love you," on every birthday card. Dear son, it started. Your father taught you loyalty. He lived it every day of our 40 years together. He was loyal to me, to you, to his word. Loyalty is one of the most important things a man can have. But loyalty to a lie is betrayal of yourself. A family built on lies was never yours to save. A wife who would trap you with another man's child doesn't deserve your loyalty. And a child who deserves a father deserves one who chose him honestly, not one who was tricked into it. I know you love Oliver. I love him too. But love without truth is just another kind of prison. Walk away, son. Not because you don't care, but because caring for yourself matters too. And when you're ready, when you've healed, you'll build the family you actually deserve, with someone who won't make you doubt your own reality. I love you. Your father would be proud of the man you're trying to be. Now be proud enough to save yourself. Mom. I read it twice. The second time, my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the paper. What if everyone thinks I'm a monster? I whispered. Let them think it, my mother said. The people who matter will understand, and the people who don't understand don't matter. She pulled something else from her pocket. A gold ring, worn smooth by decades of wear. My father's wedding ring, the one he wore until the day he died. He wanted you to have this when you got married, she said. But Jennifer doesn't deserve to be honored with it, so I'm giving it to you now as a reminder. This ring represents promises kept, real promises, not the kind someone forces on you when they've already broken every vow that matters. I slipped the ring onto my finger. It was heavy. The good kind of heavy, the kind you carry, not the kind that crushes you. What do I do? I asked. You get a lawyer, my mother said. You document everything, and you do not sign those papers. I hired a private investigator 3 days later. His name was Dennis, and he worked out of a small office above a dry cleaner in downtown. He had gray hair and tired eyes, and the kind of face that made you think he'd seen everything twice. When I told him my story, he didn't even blink. How far back do you want me to go? He asked. The Greece trip, I said. 6 months ago. I need to know if it was really just one night. Dennis leaned back in his chair. In my experience, it's never just one night. One night doesn't end with adoption papers. He was right. The report came back 7 days later. 47 pages. I sat in my car in a parking lot and read every single word. Phone records first. Jennifer's number, cross-referenced with an unknown contact. The PI had identified him, Marco Giannopoulos, 34, originally from Athens, currently living in Miami. Restaurant manager, married. The text started 3 days into Jennifer's Greece trip. The first one was innocent enough. Thanks for showing me the real Santorini. But by day 4, they'd escalated. By day 7, Jennifer had sent him 276 messages. I know because the PI counted them, highlighted them, printed them out in a neat spreadsheet with timestamps. 2:14 a.m., 11:47 p.m., 4:03 a.m., the hours when honest people sleep. Miss you already, Mommy. When can we meet again? You make me feel alive. Each text was a tiny bomb. Each timestamp was proof that this wasn't a drunken mistake. It was a relationship. But the worst part was the photos. The PI had tracked down Marco's social media, privacy settings loose enough that everything was visible. And there, in his Instagram feed from 6 months ago, were photos from the same resort. The same turquoise wristband on his arm, the same infinity pool in the background. And, in one photo, dated the same week Jennifer was there, Marco was with a woman whose face was mostly hidden, but whose profile was unmistakable, her hand on his arm, his hand on her back. And in one shot, the one that made my stomach drop, his hand resting on her stomach, while she smiled at the camera. She was already pregnant, and she was already showing him. The photo metadata confirms they were taken the same week your wife was there, Dennis had written in the margins. Cross-referencing credit card statement shows she made 5 separate trips back to Greece after the initial vacation. Flights paid for with a credit card in her name only. 5 trips, not one night. 5 separate trips, each one a lie she'd told while I stayed home with Oliver. This wasn't a mistake, I said out loud to my empty car. This was a relationship, and I was funding it. The PI slid one more document across the table when I met him to pay his final invoice. "Hotel receipts," he said quietly. "Thought you might want these for court." Court. The word felt too big, too final. But Dennis was already thinking ahead, and maybe I should have been too. The receipts showed 2 rooms at the Greek resort, both charged to Jennifer's credit card. Both occupied the same nights. 2 dinners every night at the hotel restaurant, Dennis pointed out. Someone was eating with her. I took the evidence binder home, 37 exhibits, each one labeled and indexed, each one another nail in the coffin of my marriage. That night, Jennifer's family started calling. First, her mother. "You're being selfish," she said, without even saying hello. "That little boy needs a father, and you're the only father he's ever known." "I'm not his father," I said. "Biology might not matter to you, but honesty does matter to me." "Real men step up," she snapped. "Are you a real man or just a coward?" I hung up. Then her sister called. "Jennifer made a mistake, but you're making it worse. Think about what divorce will do to Oliver. Think about how he'll feel knowing his daddy abandoned him." "I didn't abandon him," I said, but my voice was shaking. "Jennifer abandoned our marriage when she slept with someone else. It was one time." "It was 5 trips," I interrupted. 5 flights, 5 hotels, 276 text messages. I have the records, so you can stop lying for her now. Silence on the other end. Then, "You investigated her?" "I verified her story," I said. And her story was a lie. She hung up on me. "Here's my question for you. When family demands loyalty to a lie, do you protect the truth or keep the peace?" Comment truth or peace. I'll tell you what I chose. The group text started after that. Her whole family, minus me. But Jennifer made the mistake of screenshotting one conversation and sending it to her sister, who accidentally sent it to me instead. Jennifer's mom. "He's going to regret this." Jennifer's sister. "Let him look like the bad guy. Everyone will side with us." Jennifer's mom. "A man who abandons a baby isn't a man at all." Jennifer. "Just keep pressuring him. He'll break. He always does." I took a screenshot of the screenshot, added it to the evidence binder as Exhibit 23. My own family was different. My mother called every day just to check in. My brother, who lives in Denver and who I only talk to on holidays, flew in for a weekend just to take me to dinner. "You're doing the right thing," he said over beer and burgers. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are. Everyone thinks I'm abandoning a child. You're not abandoning him. You're refusing to be legally responsible for someone else's affair, baby. There's a difference." "Is there?" I asked, because I genuinely didn't know anymore. "Yeah," my brother said. "There is. Look, if some random woman showed up at your door tomorrow with a 3-year-old and said, 'Surprise, this is yours,' you'd ask for a DNA test before signing any papers, right? Obviously. So, why is this different just because Jennifer tricked you into bonding with him first? A lie doesn't become truth just because it lasted 3 years. He was right, but that didn't make it hurt less. Then I found Marco. Not in person. I wasn't ready for that. But the PI had included his phone number in the report. And at 11 p.m. on a Thursday, after 3 beers and enough anger to make me stupid, I called him. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Yeah?" "Is this Marco Giannopoulos?" Pause. "Who's asking?" "The husband," I said. "The one raising your kid." Longer pause. Then, "Oh man. Look, I don't know what she told you, but she told me it was one night. She told me it was a mistake. She told me you don't even know Oliver exists." "Oliver?" He sounded genuinely confused. "Is that the kid's name?" My hand tightened around the phone. "You didn't know." "She told me she couldn't get pregnant," Marco said. His voice had an accent, Greek, faded by years in America. "She said her husband had a low sperm count or something. She said it was safe." "Nothing about what you two did was safe." "Look, man, I'm sorry, but that's not my problem anymore. I got a wife. I got my own kids. I can't be involved in whatever drama Jennifer's creating. Drama? My voice rose. She's demanding I adopt your child. She's threatening to destroy my reputation if I don't. And you're calling it drama? What do you want me to do? And now he sounded annoyed, defensive. You think I'm going to fly up there and play daddy? You think I'm going to ruin my marriage for some vacation fling? That's your problem now, buddy. He laughed. Actually laughed. You think I'm going to raise another man's mistake? Good luck with that. Then he hung up. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone, and felt something inside me finally break. Not the sad kind of breaking, the clarifying kind. Jennifer had slept with a man who didn't want the baby, who didn't want her, who saw Oliver as another man's mistake. And instead of facing those consequences, she'd come home and built a trap out of my love and my ignorance. I wasn't the bad guy in this story. I was the mark. That weekend, Oliver got sick. Just a cold, but he was miserable, runny nose, low fever, crying through the night. Jennifer had a work event, or so she said, which meant I was alone with him. I held him against my chest while he whimpered. His little body was hot with fever. He kept saying daddy between sobs, and every time he said it, it felt like another small death. I loved this child. I genuinely, truly loved him. But love built on a lie isn't stable. It's a house on sand, and the tide was coming in. I carried him back to his room around midnight, after he'd finally fallen asleep. The giraffe was on the floor. I picked it up. Synthetic soft fur, the kind of texture made for children who can't betray you yet, and set it next to him in the crib. That's when I noticed the baby monitor was still on. We had one of those fancy ones with a camera and two-way audio. The parent unit was in our bedroom. The baby unit was on Oliver's dresser, blinking its little green light. I was about to turn it off when I heard Jennifer's voice through the speaker. She must have come home. She must have been in our bedroom, on the phone, not realizing the monitor was on. Once he signs, we won't need him anymore. I froze. No, Marco's not coming back. He made that clear. But if I can get him to legally adopt Oliver, then I have insurance, child support, split custody. I can get out of this marriage with money instead of just another single mom. Silence while whoever she was talking to responded. He'll sign, Jennifer continued. He's too weak not to. He can't stand people thinking badly of him. That's why I did it at the party. Maximum pressure, maximum witnesses. He'll fold. Another pause. And if he doesn't, I'll tell everyone he abandoned a baby. I'll post it everywhere. His job, his family, his friends. Everyone will know what kind of man he is. She laughed. It wasn't the laugh I'd fallen in love with. It was calculating, cold. Trust me, I've got this handled. I stood there in Oliver's room, holding my phone, and I did something I never thought I'd do. I started recording. I want to know, where's your line? What betrayal would make you walk away? Drop your answer below, or just type, boundaries matter. The audio was clear enough. The timestamp was visible. And when I played it back later, in my car, in a parking lot, with my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone, it was undeniable. Jennifer hadn't just cheated. She hadn't just lied. She'd weaponized my love for a child to trap me legally, financially, socially. She'd turned Oliver into bait and me into the mark, and she'd done it with such casual cruelty that she'd laughed about it to whoever she was talking to. That recording went into the evidence binder as Exhibit 31. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Torres, and she specialized in family law. Her office was downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of furniture that said she didn't lose often. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. The whole story, start to finish. The Greece trip, the pregnancy, the DNA test, the adoption papers, the investigation, the phone call with Marco, the baby monitor recording. Patricia listened, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she looked up. You have an airtight case. she said. Paternity fraud isn't technically a crime in this state, but it's absolutely grounds for annulment or divorce. And with the evidence you have, there's no way she's getting anything in the settlement. What about Oliver? I asked. What happens to him? He's not your legal responsibility, Patricia said carefully. You never adopted him. Your name isn't on the birth certificate because she never put it there. Probably because she knew this day might come. Biologically, he's not yours. Legally, he's not yours. The only relationship you have is emotional. And if I sign the adoption papers, Patricia's expression hardened. Then you're legally and financially responsible for him until he's 18. Child support, medical expenses, education. And when you two divorce, she can fight for split custody and use your adoption as proof you're the father, even though you're not. So signing would trap me, completely. And if I don't sign, then you walk away clean. No financial obligation, no custody battles, no leverage for her to use against you. I thought about Oliver's face, his laugh, the way he called me daddy. It feels wrong, I said quietly. It feels wrong because you're a good person, Patricia said. Bad people don't agonize over these decisions. But here's what I need you to understand. If you sign those papers, she can take everything, your house, your savings, your future kids with someone else. She could demand child support that impacts your ability to care for them. And she's already shown you she's willing to lie, manipulate, and trap you. Don't give her more ammunition. She slid a document across the desk. State statute on paternity fraud. Precedent cases. I've highlighted the relevant sections. I took the document. The words blurred together, but one phrase stood out. Fraud vitiates all contracts. What does that mean? I asked. It means a contract based on fraud isn't enforceable, Patricia said. She tricked you, and the law doesn't reward fraud. Remember that when this gets hard, because it will get hard. It got hard that afternoon. Jennifer came home early from work, or maybe she never went to work at all. She found me in the kitchen, staring at Patricia's documents. What are those? She asked. Divorce papers, I said. I'm filing tomorrow. The color drained from her face. You can't do that. I can. I am. What about Oliver? Her voice rose, cracking. What about your son? He's not my son. The words came out flat. Factual. You made sure of that when you slept with Marco 5 times, in 5 different trips that you lied about. She stepped back. You investigated me? I verified your story, I said. And your story was a lie. All of it. The one-night story, the mistake story, the we can work through this story. 276 texts to Marco says it wasn't a mistake. 5 flights to Greece says it wasn't one night. And a recording of you saying, once he signs, we won't need him anymore, says you never loved me at all. Her face went white. You recorded me? You left the baby monitor on, I said. I didn't have to try very hard. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then her expression shifted. The tears started, the trembling lips, the wounded voice I'd heard so many times before. I made a mistake, she whispered. But that child? He's your mistake if you abandon him now. Everyone will know. Everyone will see what kind of man you really are. And something inside me, something that had been bending and bending under the weight of her manipulation, finally snapped back straight. No, I said. The word came out quiet, firm, final. Your choices, your consequences, not mine anymore. Her face twisted. The tears stopped like someone had flipped a switch. You'll regret this, she hissed. I'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned a baby, your job, your family, your friends. I'll destroy you. You already tried, I said, but the truth protects itself, and I have 37 exhibits of truth. I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and left. I didn't go back. I moved into a furnished apartment 3 blocks from my mother's house. One bedroom, basic furniture, the kind of place that says temporary in every beige wall and standard issue lamp. But it was mine. The silence was mine. The truth was mine. Jennifer posted on Facebook 2 days later. My husband abandoned our baby. After 3 years of being a father, he walked out the moment things got hard. Please keep us in your prayers during this difficult time. The post had 347 likes within an hour. Comments poured in. So sorry you're going through this. Real men don't run. That poor baby. My phone started buzzing. Colleagues, old friends, people I hadn't talked to in years, all asking variations of, is it true? Did you really abandon your kid? I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I posted something myself, just the DNA test, the lab report with its official letterhead, and that number, 0.0%, highlighted in yellow, and a single caption. Here's the truth she doesn't want you to know. I didn't abandon a child. I refused to be legally responsible for my wife's affair baby after she committed paternity fraud. There's a difference. I attached the lab report as a PDF, made the post public, and waited. 10,000 shares in the first hour, 20,000 by the next morning. The comments shifted. Oh my God, she lied? He has every right to leave. This is fraud. Jennifer deleted her post. But the internet doesn't forget. Screenshots were everywhere. Her narrative collapsed in real time. She called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. My lawyer had told me not to. Everything goes through attorneys now, she'd said. So I let it ring. Her 18th call came through as a voice message. I listened to it once. You destroyed me, she sobbed. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. My job is asking questions. My own mother won't talk to me. How could you do this? How could you humiliate me like this? I saved the voicemail. Exhibit 38. If you think he deserves justice, hit that like button right now. If you think he should have signed those papers, I want to hear why. Respectful debate only. The mediation hearing was scheduled 6 weeks later. Patricia had explained how it worked. Both sides, both attorneys, and a neutral mediator in a conference room downtown. The goal was settlement, avoid court if possible, save money, save time. But Patricia had also said quietly, bring all your evidence. We're going to make sure she understands what she's up against. I wore a suit, my father's wedding ring on my finger. I carried the evidence binder, now up to 41 exhibits after adding Jennifer's social media posts, the voicemail, and screenshots of her family's threatening texts. Jennifer arrived 15 minutes late with her attorney, a man named Robert Chen, who looked tired before we even started. She'd dressed carefully, modest blouse, minimal makeup, the costume of a wronged woman. But when she saw me across the table, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe. Or rage. The mediator was a woman in her 60s named Carol Steinberg. She had reading glasses on a chain and the expression of someone who'd seen every lie people could tell. Let's begin, Carol said. We're here to discuss the dissolution of marriage between Jennifer Morrison and... I want to start by saying he's the one who abandoned us, Jennifer interrupted. He walked out on a 3-year-old child who knows him as Daddy. That's child abandonment. Patricia didn't even blink. May I present Exhibit 1? She slid the DNA test across the table. Certified copy. Official lab seal. My client never abandoned a child, Patricia said calmly. He refused to adopt a child that isn't biologically his after discovering his wife's infidelity. That's not abandonment. That's self-preservation. Jennifer's attorney picked up the DNA test. Read it. His shoulders sagged slightly. When did you obtain this? Robert asked me. 3 months ago, I said, after I noticed timeline inconsistencies with the pregnancy. And you didn't tell me? Jennifer turned to me, her voice rising. You went behind my back? You went to Greece behind my back, I said quietly. 5 times with Marco. The mediator looked up sharply. 5 times? Patricia slid more documents across the table. Exhibit 7 through 12, flight records. Exhibit 13 through 18, hotel receipts. Exhibit 19, phone record showing 276 text messages between Mrs. Morrison and Marco Giannopoulos over a 6-month period. Carol put on her reading glasses. She read slowly, flipping through pages. The room was silent except for the sound of paper. Mrs. Morrison, Carol said finally, is it accurate that you had an extended relationship with Mr. Giannopoulos and became pregnant during that relationship? Jennifer's face was red. It was complicated. It's a yes or no question. Silence. Yes, Jennifer whispered. And did you tell your husband the child was his? I thought, yes or no? Yes. And did you know the child was not biologically his? Longer silence. I suspected, Jennifer said. Her voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. You suspected. Carol set down the papers. And rather than tell your husband the truth, you presented him with adoption papers at a child's birthday party in front of witnesses? I needed him to commit. You needed to trap him, I said. The words came out harder than I intended. You needed to lock me in legally before I could discover the truth. That's not... Exhibit 31, Patricia said, sliding forward one more document. Audio recording, legally obtained via baby monitor. Mrs. Morrison discussing her plan to pressure my client into signing adoption papers, then using those papers as leverage in a divorce settlement. Carol pressed play on the audio file. Jennifer's voice filled the room, tinny but clear. Once he signs, we won't need him anymore. He'll sign. He's too weak not to. If he doesn't, I'll tell everyone he abandoned a baby. The recording ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert Chen closed his folder. Mrs. Morrison, I need to speak with you privately. I can explain privately, he said firmly. They stepped out of the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Robert speaking urgently, his hands moving in sharp gestures. Jennifer was crying. Real tears this time, I think. The kind that come when you realize you've lost. They came back 10 minutes later. Jennifer's eyes were red. My client would like to agree to the divorce terms, Robert said. No contest. She waives any claim to shared property, alimony, or child support for Oliver. In return, we ask that the evidence of her relationship remain sealed. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. The evidence stays public, I said. She tried to destroy my reputation. She posted on social media that I abandoned a child. She weaponized my love for Oliver to trap me. The truth is the only thing protecting me now, and I won't seal it. Patricia put her hand on my arm. Are you sure? I'm sure. Carol looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Morrison, do you agree to these terms? Jennifer didn't look at me. She stared at the table. Yes. Then we have an agreement, Carol said. She started writing notes on her legal pad. I'll draft the mediation agreement. Both parties will sign. Then we proceed to the court for the final decree. The mediator asked her one question before we left. Mrs. Morrison, did you commit paternity fraud? Jennifer looked at me. Her eyes were empty. Then she looked away. Yes, she whispered. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and broken promises. Judge Maria Reyes presided, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and zero tolerance for manipulation. She read through the mediation agreement. She reviewed the evidence. She looked at Jennifer over her reading glasses. Mrs. Morrison, do you understand that paternity fraud, while not criminal in this state, is grounds for immediate annulment of any parental claims? Yes, Your Honor. And do you understand that your actions, lying about paternity, attempting to coerce adoption, and planning to use those adoption papers as leverage, constitute fraud? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Reyes turned to me. Mr. Morrison, you understand that by declining to adopt the minor child, you have no legal or financial responsibility toward him? I understand. And you're certain this is what you want? I thought about Oliver, about the nursery I'd painted, about the stuffed giraffe, about midnight feedings and birthday parties and the word daddy that still echoed in my chest like an old wound. I'm certain, I said, not because I don't care about him, but because my care can't be built on someone else's lie. The judge nodded slowly. This court finds in favor of the respondent. Mrs. Morrison's petition for adoption is denied. The marriage is dissolved. Assets are divided per the mediation agreement. This court also notes in the record that fraud vitiates all contracts. Mrs. Morrison's deception invalidates any claims based on assumed paternity. She looked at both of us. You are divorced. You are free. The gavel came down. I walked out of that courtroom carrying nothing but my father's ring and a copy of the decree. Jennifer left through a different exit. I never saw her face again. 2 years later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, not the temporary one, the real one I bought 6 months ago. It's small, but it's mine. High ceilings, good light, a balcony where I drink coffee every morning and watch the sun come up over the city. I'm not the same person who walked into that birthday party 3 years ago. That man was afraid of disappointing people, afraid of being judged, afraid to say no when someone demanded pieces of him he didn't want to give. This version of me has boundaries, clear ones, the kind that don't apologize for existing. My mother comes over every Sunday. We cook dinner together, and she tells me stories about my father, stories I've heard before but need to hear again. Reminders that good men exist, that promises kept matter, that integrity isn't about never falling, it's about what you do when you get back up. I'm dating someone now. Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher. She has a laugh that sounds like sunlight feels, and when I told her my story, the whole story, every ugly piece, she didn't run. She looked at me and said, "Thank you for choosing yourself. Not everyone is brave enough to do that. We're taking it slow. No rush, no pressure, just two people building something on a foundation of truth instead of convenient fictions." I found out through mutual acquaintances that Jennifer moved to another state. Oliver is with her. Marco never came back. Of course he didn't. Last I heard, she's telling people she's a widow. Easier than explaining the truth, I guess. I wonder about Oliver sometimes. I hope he's okay. I hope he grows up knowing that love should be honest, that promises should be kept, that boundaries aren't betrayal, they're self-respect. And I hope that someday, when he's old enough to understand, someone tells him this truth. I didn't abandon him. I refused to be trapped by his mother's lies. There's a difference. Last week, I did something I've been thinking about for months. I went to a children's charity downtown, the kind that provides toys and supplies to kids in foster care. I brought the stuffed giraffe, the one I'd bought 3 years ago, the one that had sat in a storage box for 2 years because I couldn't look at it without feeling something complicated. I attached a note to it. May this child see clearly what I couldn't, with love, from someone who learned the hard way. The volunteer who took it smiled. Someone's going to treasure this. I hope so. I hope some kid who needs a little magic gets that giraffe and never knows about the pain that came with it. I hope it just becomes a toy, a comfort, a friend. That's what healing looks like, I think. Taking the broken pieces and making something useful for someone else. I still have my father's wedding ring. I wear it sometimes when I need the reminder, but I'm not saving it for the past anymore. I'm saving it for the future, someday. Maybe with Sarah, maybe with someone I haven't met yet. I'll give this ring to someone who deserves it. Someone who understands that promises are sacred, that truth matters, that love shouldn't cost you your dignity. And when I do, I'll tell them the story. Not to traumatize them, but to explain why I value honesty the way I do. Why I won't tolerate lies, even small ones. Why I believe that real love starts with real truth. Because I learned something in those 3 years of marriage and that 1 year of hell, Loyalty to a lie is betrayal of yourself, but loyalty to the truth, that's the kind of loyalty that builds something lasting. I started keeping a journal after the divorce. My therapist suggested it, a way to process everything, to track my healing, to remind myself on hard days that I am making progress. I wrote an entry this morning that I want to share. 2 years ago, I thought my life was ending. My marriage was a lie. My family was a fraud. The child I loved wasn't mine. And I felt like I was drowning in shame that wasn't even mine to carry. But here's what I know now. I didn't lose a family that day. I escaped a prison made of lies and manipulation, and the kind of love that demands you set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Walking away wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the most honest thing. And honesty, real, uncomfortable, boundary-setting honesty, saved my life. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm not angry. I'm just free. Free to build a life on my terms. Free to love people who love me back honestly. Free to say no without guilt. Free to say yes without fear. And that freedom, it's worth every judgment, every lost friendship, every family member who thought I should have stepped up. Because stepping up for a lie is still stepping down from yourself. I closed the journal, took a sip of coffee, watched the sun finish rising. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Still on for dinner tonight? I'm making that pasta you liked." I smiled, typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." This is what the other side looks like. The side you get to when you choose truth over comfort, when you choose boundaries over approval, when you choose yourself without apology. It's quieter than I expected, calmer, the kind of peace that doesn't need to announce itself because it's not performing for anyone. My mother was right. A family built on lies was never mine to save. But the family I'm building now, the one made of people who choose me because of who I am, not because of what I can give them, that's the one worth everything. I want to leave you with this. If you've ever had to say no to family, no to pressure, no to a lie disguised as love, if you've ever walked away from something everyone said you should keep, just because keeping it meant losing yourself, if you've ever chosen truth over peace, boundaries over approval, honesty over comfort, you're not alone. And you're not wrong. Love shouldn't cost you your truth. And the truth, it set me free. This story ended with freedom, but it started with one word: no. If this video helped you feel less alone, if it gave you permission to set a boundary you've been afraid to set, share your found family story below. Who chose you when they didn't have to? Who loved you because of the truth, not despite it? Let's build that community together, because we all deserve families that don't cost us ourselves.